seară, my darlings. As you can see, first of all, I'm all by myself today. No Alfred, no flying mint bunnies, and no Arthur. I'll get to Arthur later on in the episode. As you can see, I'm wearing my special hat today. Do you know why? Because it's my birthday today. And so today I'm going to teach you how to say happy birthday in Romanian. I'm going to teach you about Union Day, about my birthday in Romania. And then I'm going to answer your questions, and then when I'm all done, I'm going to go into the other room where the children and Alfred are waiting for me to have cake and all of that nonsense that I don't really do on my birthday, but Alfred insisted on a cake. So it's chocolate, so I can't really complain. So to wish someone a happy birthday, you would say La mulți ani, which is happy birthday, but it really means many more years. So you're not really wishing someone happy birthday, you're saying, oh, many more years to you because you're that awesome. Now, for those of you who are unaware, December 1st is Union Day, which, if you're American, is pretty much like Independence Day. We call it Ziua Marii Uniri, which means Great Union Day. And on Great Union Day ever since 1989, I'll get to that in a minute, we have parades and we celebrate, and everybody loves me for the day. We've actually had several different sort of national days before 1989, because 1989, as I mentioned previously, was the date that, we were revolted against the Soviet Union and became independent. The day also is meant to commemorate the union between between Romania and Transylvania, and Moldavia and Wallachia were also part of that, and that happened in 1918, but because of communism and all this other bullshit that the country went through, the national day has changed quite a number of times. But my birthday, December 1st, has, of course, always remained the same. So in 1989, when we got our independence back and such, I decided pretty much that, okay, I finally want my damn national day on my damn birthday. So that's why it is now December 1st, and if it changes again, I think I might throw a fit, because... So up until last year, today was a day that Koshmina and I would sort of get together and celebrate it, because it was it's my birthday, but it's also sort of our day. But since last year, and again this year obviously, Alfred has taken it upon himself to celebrate it with us in the most, dramatic way possible, because that's how Alfred does celebrations. And I don't mind that. It's actually it's a nice change from the years and years that it was just sort of Koshmina and I. So now you know how to say happy birthday, you know a little bit about my birthday, and so now I'm going to start answering your questions. So 3 different people have asked me what my favorite blood type is. I could answer that in the most terrible way possible by saying that Alfred's blood type is my favorite, but I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail about that, because I've only had it once or twice, and I've mentioned before last episode that AB negative is a sort of delicacy amongst vampires because it's so rare. So I would say that definitely AB, any AB actually is the tastiest in my opinion, and I won't say whether or not that has anything to do with Alfred. But I was also asked if I go by a more, person-to-person basis, and yes, that is pretty much the case. It really depends on the person more than the blood type. The blood type does affect the taste to a point, but the person itself more so, because, it depends on what they have eaten, or, what sort of chemicals they've ingested. For example, vampires can't really get drunk, but if you feed on a drunk person, then you get drunk. That's how vampires get drunk. Unless you want to drink a lot. And by a lot, I mean like 8 to 10 bottles in one sitting. At least. What are your thoughts on the following countries? Armenia, Georgia, and North Korea. To be honest, I don't know any of them very well at all. I'm sort of a hermit. I don't really do a whole lot of socializing. I mean, there are certain countries that I'm closer to and that I, talk to on a regular basis. Unfortunately, those three are not on that list. They sort of keep to themselves anyway. They're really more hermits than I am. How would you pronounce the name Kara in Romanian? Just like that. Kara. How many languages can a country speak, read, and understand? Well, it depends on the country. Quite a few years ago, I want to say a century or so ago, right around the time that World War I was going on, we all sort of got together and decided that English would be the sort of universal language that we all have to learn. That way there's never, that language barrier, and so it avoids miscommunications. So it's like, when in doubt, speak English. How many languages can you understand and speak? Aside from Romanian, obviously, and English, obviously, I speak a total of 33 different languages. So 35, including the first two. This is not really common for most nations. I have an extreme sort of obsession with learning different languages. I have been this way since I was a child, and since Nikolai started teaching me other languages. And before you even ask, I'll list off the languages that I know, or try to. Obviously, Romanian and English, German, Italian, Russian, Hungarian, Bulgarian, French, Norwegian, Danish, Finnish, Swedish, Icelandic, Dutch, Greek, Spanish, Polish, Belarusian, Ukrainian, Turkish, Latin, Slavic, Romani, Moldovan, Serbian, Slovak, Czech, Albanian, Slovenian, Romansh, Croatian, Bosnian, Macedonian, a little bit of Japanese. I can't write it, but I can speak it for the most part. And a little bit of Chinese. Chinese is the one that I have been trying to learn most recently, and it is very challenging. Have you ever cooked for the world meetings before? And did the other representatives like your food? I very rarely go to world meetings. Basically, whatever country is hosting the conferences, they are the ones that provide the food and such. I mean, I'm a vampire. I don't really eat a whole lot of human food, so I hired a bunch of people to cook, native Romanian dishes and such, and I don't know, I guess they went over pretty well. I didn't hear any, complaints. How bad does it hurt when you accidentally bite your lip while you were eating? Well, like I just said, I don't really eat a whole lot of human food. I've never really, bitten my lip while I was eating human food. I imagine if I did, it probably wouldn't hurt that much, and even if it drew blood, it would heal very quickly. Vampires experience senses quite differently than humans do, so pain is something that we do register, but it isn't that bad. Would you have a magic fight with England? Well, as much as Arthur and I argue sometimes, I really would like to think that we would never get to that point where we would have to fight each other with magic, or in any other sense, I suppose. If it came down to that, would I use magic against Arthur? Absolutely. And I know that I would win, because as good as Arthur is with magic, he doesn't know vampire magic, so I would have an advantage over him where that's concerned. Have you or any of your children had any relationships with non-nation/region vampires other than Alexandru, such as Dracula? I can't really tell you a whole lot about Radu and Cesar's romantic relationships. I don't really keep track of that a whole lot, especially considering they are not in the castle so often. They're usually, gone off doing their own thing quite a bit. Koshmina, she's still pretty young, so she's just sort of just now reaching that stage where, she's interested in romantic relationships and such. So no, I to my knowledge anyway, the children have not been in any sort of romantic relationship with anyone that wasn't a personification of a nation or something like that. Dracula, to me, Vlad Tepes was more like an uncle, maybe. How would you describe your relationship with your current president? My current president since 2004 is Traian Băsescu. I really don't like to talk about my leaders, my current leaders at least, simply because, depending on what I say, I could get in a lot of trouble. To avoid taking a political stance one way or the other, I will just say that Traian is not as bad as everyone thinks he is. I've obviously sat down with him and we've talked about, the future of the country, etc., etc. And if you get him one-on-one, he's a very cool guy. I really like him. But, there are a lot of people who aren't particularly happy with him. He's been dismissed from office twice, but also twice he's resumed office. We know that Transylvania, Alfred, and yourself are mostly homosexual, but what are Radu and Cesar's sexual preferences? Well, first of all, I wouldn't consider any of those people that were just mentioned to be strictly homosexual. I suppose I would consider myself to be mostly homosexual, yes. As far as Koshmina and Alfred are concerned, I think that they, in addition to Radu and Cesar, are not so much sexual in one way or the other as they are open-minded. So I suppose I would consider them bisexual, if nothing else. What would you do if your worst fear came to life? I think my greatest fear would be losing Nikolai. And if that happened, I really don't know what I would do. I really don't. I have had Nikolai in my life since I was a little thing, so I can't even imagine living eternity without him. Yes, I'm afraid to lose Alfred, I'm afraid to lose Koshmina and Cesar and Radu, but yeah, I'm sorry, I really don't know how to answer that question. I really do not know what I would do. What are some traditional foods served in Romania, and also what kind of pastries, sweets are also served? Like I've pointed out like twice I think already, I don't eat a whole lot of human food, but obviously my people do. A lot of our cuisine is influenced from Turkey because of the Ottoman Empire. We are very fond of pork. We're also very fond of polenta. We do eat, beef and chicken and fish and all that, but it's usually pork. Usually pork is the big thing, especially around Christmas. And we do all sorts of other things too, like sausage and stuffed peppers and all these kinds of things. Pastries and sweets, we have gogosh, which Alfred really likes because it is basically donuts, fried dough. We also have placinta, which is like a pie or a cake that you put fruit and things in. You can put anything in it. I think probably one of the most popular things we have is kozonak, which is like a sponge cake, sweet bread. That is something that we make pretty much every holiday. I even make it around Christmas. I really like it, and Koshmina really likes it, so we eat a little bit of it for Christmas, and Alfred really likes it too. What is your favorite anime/manga? I don't really watch a whole lot of television, but I have seen some of Kiku's shows and read some of his manga. I like Death Note, that's a pretty good one. I like all the vampire ones, for the most part. Sometimes they annoy me, but Trinity Blood and Blood Plus and all of that, those are pretty good. Full Metal Alchemist, I'm into alchemy, so obviously I liked that one. I really like the darker anime, or the ones that do vampires, obviously. I'm not really into all the girly, giggly ones as much. I haven't really read a whole lot of manga because I can't read Japanese yet. I've been learning, but I haven't learned enough yet to read a whole lot of manga. The ones I have read have either been in English or Romanian, so I'm sure the translation's off. But it's same as the anime, really, only less, because like I said, I haven't read as many. Are you a strigoi? I'm actually very impressed that you know what a strigoi is. For those of you who don't know what is first of all, let me answer the question. No, I'm not technically a strigoi. For those of you now that don't know what a strigoi is, it is a creature in Romanian folklore that is pretty much like a vampire. Usually strigoi are more like spirits or ghouls as opposed to undead flesh and blood like I am. Why do you dislike the Netherlands? 2 words. Van Helsing. I'm not even sure if he actually existed or he was just a folklore thing. I don't know. Either way, here's why I dislike the Netherlands. He's a vampire hunter. He's a monster hunter. He hunts supernatural things. I am a supernatural thing. So he and I don't get along. Obviously, because I'm a nation, he can't exactly hunt me down, but he does tend to give me shit every now and then, and for that reason he is not my best friend. What do you think happens when you pull Canada's ahoge? I've seen many different takes on that. One is that it releases Manada, his crazy self, or makes him only able to speak French. I don't know about any of that craziness, but I have never personally pulled Canada's ahoge, nor would I, but I can only assume that what happens when you pull it is the same thing that happens whenever you pull anyone else's, which is that it hurts if you pull very hard. If you pull a little bit, it's not so bad, and it's, erogenous zone, kind of a turn on. But if you pull it very hard, if you yank on it, it hurts. So I assume that's what happens. When was the last time you spoke to Bulgaria? What did you two talk about? I believe the last time I spoke to Victor was London Olympics. And he and I went out for a drink and sort of caught up a little bit because we hadn't really talked to each other in a few years. We did a little bit of talking about the Olympics. He wanted to know about Alfred, so I told him a lot about Alfred. And that's about it. Will you tell us more about your relationship with Bulgaria? I'm not really sure what you want to know. I told you that we lived together in Russia. He was very frightened of me at first, but then we slowly became closer, and he eventually served as my blood donor for a little while we were living together in Russia. Like I said before, I sort of broke off the relationship because I didn't want him to be hurt. We still talk to each other occasionally, and we still, hang out sometimes, but I don't know. Other than that, I don't really know what you want to know about our relationship. How exactly can a nation die? Does it involve a series of things, or can it be just one singular event? Well, it depends. It depends on the nation, it depends on the circumstances. Sometimes it is a series of things, but most of the time it is usually one singular event. For example, a Holy Roman Empire died when his empire collapsed. It also depends a lot on your people. If all of your people die, you're obviously going to die with them. Okay, this account is apparently shared by Germany and Italy. I assumed last time that it was actually Germany, so I'm going to just assume that this time it is really Italy. What do you think of mine and Ludwig's relationship, and do you love cats? Feliciano and Ludwig's relationship, I don't really care either way, to be completely honest. I do, however, think it is probably a good thing that Feliciano is with Ludwig, because he tends to keep, Feliciano tends to keep Ludwig, balanced out a little bit. Yeah, I guess I'm happy for them. Do I love cats? I don't love cats. I don't go crazy over them, but I do like them. They're for as far as animals go, they're pretty cool. They're independent, and they're soft. They purr. Yeah, cats are pretty cool. How does being half immortal affect your lifespan? I don't know. That is actually a question that I've been wondering about since this whole half vampire thing happened. And unfortunately, Nikolai doesn't know either. We really don't know. I just have to sort of wait and see. What do you think about how Liechtenstein and Transylvania are together, and why is Switzerland so pissed off about this? I know that Koshmina cares very much for Lily. I really don't know how Lily feels about her, but I only know, what Koshmina has told me, but I imagine that they're very cute together, and if it makes Koshmina happy, then that's all I care about. I really don't know why Switzerland is so upset about it, other than the fact that he's pretty much terrified of us, and by us I mean vampires. He seems to be very overprotective. of Lily, so I imagine that has a lot to do with it too. Do you ever think there will be a magic club reunion? You know, I've never actually had that thought, but I think it's a good idea, and I think that I might talk to Arthur about that and see if he likes the idea, and if he does, then we might just have one. Do you like to party, even on the holidays? I like to party especially on the holidays. Romanians are very into celebrations and partying. How did you meet your sons? How is Transylvania? Is she okay? It looks like she is avoiding Liechtenstein. Is she scared that she might hurt her? How did I meet my sons? I met my sons through Nikolai. You know, he wasn't there to have us shake hands, but he led me to meeting them. Koshmina is doing just fine. She went through a lot over Halloween, but I think in spite of that, she's doing alright. I think to a point she is avoiding Lily, and that is because she doesn't want to hurt her. They do, write each other letters and they talk on the phone occasionally. Humankind cannot give anything without first giving something in return. To obtain something of equal value must be lost. That is alchemy's first law of equivalent exchange, and of course alchemy is a science. But you mentioned something similar in a video. My question is, do you think in this way science and magic are connected? Abso-fucking-lutely. I think that science and magic are connected in more ways than people like to give either credit for. And so I really do think that magic and science and all of that shit is all connected. What is your relationship with Russia? In the first episode you said that you had good relations with everyone, except for Hungary of course, but after everything that Russia's communism put you and your people through, with the civil war and bad dictators, can you really still think of him as your friend, or is it just too many years ago? Yeah, I have a sort of love-hate relationship with Ivan. There have been times in the past where I really liked Ivan, and there have also been times in the past where I was very afraid of Ivan, or I couldn't stand him, or I was very upset with him. I don't really talk to Ivan anymore if I can help it. I wouldn't really consider him my friend. Mr. Romanian, where do babies come from? Love, Liechtenstein. I don't really know. I don't know if that's really Liechtenstein or not. Again, assuming it is, darling, I really think that's something you should ask your big brother about, because, he can draw it on the chalkboard for you or something. I don't think that's something I should be explaining to you. If your vampire powers were taken away and you had to battle someone, which of the following weapons would you pick? A European longsword, a katana, or an axe? I suppose I'd go with the longsword, because I don't really know how to handle a katana. I don't know how to handle any weapon properly, honestly. But I really wouldn't know how to handle a katana, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't know how to handle an axe either. So I'd probably go with the longsword and hope for the best. If, say, Russia and Germany were to attack America when he is at his weakest point for some reason, and he needed backup, who would you pick and why? Assuming I couldn't pick Nikolai, I would definitely go to Arthur. I know how Arthur gets when Alfred is threatened, and I know that he would stop at nothing to get revenge on whoever had harmed his child. If you were given the opportunity to kill Stephanie Meyer, the author of the horrible series of Twilight, what weapon would you use? Well, I wouldn't. I am not a fan of the Twilight series, but Nikolai has stressed to me my entire life how important it is to not kill anyone. As vampires, we feed on humans on a regular basis, and so therefore killing any of them is counterproductive. Speaking of Twilight, I was wondering what you thought of Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. Do you think Edward Cullen and the rest of his really sparkly gang are true vampires or very, very sparkly wannabes? Please explain your answer if you can. Well, I've already talked a little bit about Twilight in the previous episode and about what I thought of the Cullens. I think that the Cullens are a fictional family of fictional vampires, so I don't really care about them. What would you do if Arthur fucked up a spell and everyone's genders were switched? Arthur has his moments, but I'm really not sure he could fuck up a spell that bad. If he did and everyone's genders were switched, I would do everything in my power to fix it, or make him fix it. So I've almost reached the end of my list of questions. that I'm going to answer for this episode. There are 11 questions about Hungary. So here's the thing. After this episode, I will no longer be answering questions about Hungary. I'm sorry. It makes me angry to even think about Hungary. When I have to keep answering all of these questions about Hungary, it sort of upsets me, and I really don't want to get upset in these episodes where I talk to all of you. There may be a rare exception if perhaps I see a question that I find intriguing and it is Hungary related. I may answer it, but chances are I will no longer be answering questions about Hungary. I will answer these 11 questions very quickly, and then that is it. No more Hungary. No more Hungary on Ask Romania, if I can help it. Considering you and Hungary are neighboring nations, was there ever a time when you two got along? Also asked to me was, before all this stuff happened with Kosmina, did you and Hungary ever get along? No, Hungary and I have never gotten along. We hated each other from the moment we first met when we were little children. Hungary and I just have always butted heads. We have never liked each other, and we especially didn't like each other after the battle over Kosmina. How did you and Hungary meet? Like I said, we met when we were little children. All these nomadic empires were invading us and trying to take us over. We met during all of that. Even though she was just a little thing, she thought that she was badass and was going to kick everyone's ass, and that's how we met, and that was my first impression of her, and I pretty much told her to fuck off and went my own way. That's it. Will you ever get along with Hungary, at least enough to not want to kill her? I don't want to kill Hungary. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't make it a habit of killing anyone. I don't like to kill anyone. So I don't want to kill her. I just want her to leave me the hell alone. And especially leave my daughter alone. I don't want to kill her. I just don't want anything to do with her. If Hungary came up to you one day and asked for forgiveness, what would you do? I'd probably tell her to fuck off. Then again, I can never imagine that she would ever do that. What would you do if Hungary suddenly started being nice to you and or started flirting with you? I would be severely suspicious of her motives, because I don't think she would ever just all of a sudden start being nice to me. And if she started flirting with me, I'd probably vomit and then run away. If Hungary randomly approached you and asked to be friends or to make peace, how would you react or answer? Again, I would be very suspicious of her motives. I wouldn't want to be her friend. If you had to kiss Hungary... If you had to kiss Hungary in order to save Alfred from death, would you do it? Yes, I would. If it was the only way to save Alfred from certain death, then yes, I suppose I would. But I would hate it, and I would vomit afterwards, and I would disinfect my entire mouth. What would you do if Hungary raped one of your sons in their sleep and was now pregnant? What the hell kind of question is that? I don't even know how to answer that. First of all, I know she never would try that because she hates them as much as she hates me. If she tried that, I mean, they could very easily fight her off with magic. I really don't see how that would ever be a situation. On a scale of 0 to 700, how much do you hate Hungary? 700 more than that. Now that I've answered 11 questions about the nation that I hate the most, on my birthday, I'm going to stop talking about Hungary, and I'm going to stop answering your questions for now, and I'm going to go into the other room and enjoy my birthday with the people that I love. I'm really going to try to do one more episode of this. It'll be like a Christmas episode. I'll tell you all about Romanian Christmas and teach you how to say Merry Christmas in Romanian. It'll be great. I'll try to have lights up or something. So I'll try to get that episode out before Christmas. And then after that, I'm going to have Arthur do this for me for one episode. I know some of you have already been asking him your questions. Keep asking him questions. Flood him with questions. So you'll see me one more time before Arthur gets his moment in the Ask Romania spotlight. So keep asking him questions, keep asking me questions, and you will see me again before Christmas. But for now, I'm going to go have chocolate cake with Alfred. I don't mean that in a dirty way. So happy birthday to me!